So, I've been given all of the advantages in life. I was raised by a great family, international upbringing. I've been taught multiple languages. I even have the right foreign passport. But somehow, I went and messed it all up. Years ago, I found myself sitting in a jail cell. And I was thinking to myself, how the hell did I get here? And why is it that I can't do like all of my other friends who simply stay out of jail? And that's when I realized that we all have two narratives. We all have two stories to tell. The first one is filled with all of those defining moments, those awards that we win, and those positive things that we tell each other. And here's the thing. In that narrative, we have a tendency to leave out all those experiences that we don't want others to know. We leave those experiences and the lessons that we learned in the past. And we're starting to see this all over social media. Look at all the posts, comments. And how many of us can say that we are the summation of our news feeds on Facebook? But then we have a second narrative, and it's a far more powerful one. And it's the truth. It's all those experiences, both glorious and shameful, that truly define us. And here's the thing about experience. There's a place on this planet that has stored every single one of our experiences. There's a place here that knows everything that's happened to you. And it's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a process in the brain that allows you to create synaptic connections using experience. What that really means is, the more you do something, the more your brain creates pathways. But your neuroplasticity is a lot more. Your neuroplasticity is also a record of your history. It's that uniqueness about you. It's what makes you look funny, or dress funny, or be funny. Neuroplasticity is you. And herein, you have two choices. You can choose, with all your experience, to become passive. You can choose to drown yourself in social media or the news. Or you can also choose to actually experience life with diversity. And you will inevitably create neural pathways and mold your neuroplasticity. But why not choose diversity of experience? Diversity of experience allows you to create better connections in everything around you. You learn faster. You'll actually be able to navigate the space around you better, even if you don't know it. I'd like to tell you 4 stories. 4 experiences of my life that taught me 4 lessons. When I was 11, I was this fat kid out in Canada in school, and you wouldn't have seen me in the playground. You would have actually seen me in the convenience store. And when I was there, I was actually not the one buying candy, but I'd be talking to the people that were there who wanted candy. And what I would be doing is I would give them a pitch to get closer to what they wanted. Now, some people may call this being a loan shark. I simply call it being an enabler. And through this, I was going through the iteration of pitching to them and getting them closer to what they wanted. And years later, I ended up using these same skills in my job. Be it whether I'm pitching a company to investors or if I'm sitting in a boardroom trying to convince executives, there I am using the same neuroplasticity that I've trained. And herein, I learned my first lesson. You have to trust the process. You see, when I was 11 years old, there was no way I was going to know that I was going to be here or pitching to investors. And that's why it's so incredibly important. And so I went from being a lender to a few years later being a borrower. And I was in university in the UK back then, and I had grown this passion for travel. Unfortunately, travel costs money, and I didn't have very much. So the first thing that I did was I went and blew it all away. But then I had to become a bit creative. So I went to the registrar's office and I told him, hey, my father, he paid for tuition extra. You know, he's paid for the full year. Please refund me the balance. He'll pay for the next semester next time. And there I had it. I had a new pot of gold. And I started traveling again. Now, I kept doing this. And something inside me was telling me that I'm actually doing something wrong. And the neuroplasticity and my neural pathways were actually creating this conflict. And that's when I was thinking, this isn't right. And that's where I learned the second lesson. You have to get out of your comfort zone. If you don't get out of your comfort zone, you actually never know the boundary that you're creating for yourself. And that's incredibly important. That's how we grow. So there I was, I went from traveling for pleasure to traveling to save a friend. Because years later, I get a phone call from a friend of mine. And here she is telling me that she's just been put in jail because she was part of a play that advocated gay rights. And that was illegal in Ethiopia. So she called me just to talk and just try to sort things out. And I flew out there. And when we were chatting, we ended up talking about what could she do. Should she leave? Should she stay? And my version, my solution, was that she should go. What are you doing here? But she thought, no. It's not a big deal. I'm just a little scared. It's going to be okay. Now, regardless of the fact whether she left or not, one of the things that I did learn here was not to judge. One of the things that we have a tendency to do is always think that we have the right answer, that our solution to the problem is the right one. And this is the point. We're wrong if we think that. Each one of us has had a different set of experiences. And we need to be able to let each other do what we believe is right. And so, this is where I went from helping a friend in jail to being in jail. And this is a short story where I was driving in Washington, D.C., and I found myself stopped by a policeman because I was talking on the cell phone, which is illegal there. And he was scanning my license, and he said, you know, your license is suspended. I have to take you in. Of course, I would have never thought that this was actually going to happen. And there I was, sitting in a jail cell. And this is where I learned my fourth lesson. Shit happens. And that's a fact of life. But that experience also made me draw a line in terms of how I wanted to live life, how I wanted to experience life. You see, diversity of experience is important, but what is it all amounting to? And this is where I understood that I can also use my diversity of experience to not just benefit myself, but also those that are around me. Now, why did I tell you all these stories? You see, in a few years, you're probably going to forget me. You're most probably going to forget all of my stories and the lessons that I learned. Well, the point of me being up here is not for you to learn from my lessons. I could have written an article on the news or on some blog telling you that these are the top 5 ways of doing this or the best 4 ways of doing that. But that's not what I'm saying. What you need to do is you have to go out and experience. You have to go out and learn from your experience. Linda Ellis wrote a poem. She talks about a tombstone and a man speaking a eulogy of his best friend. And she describes a tombstone where on the left-hand side you have the date of birth. On the right-hand side you have the date of death. But the most important part of that tombstone takes the least amount of space, and it's the dash. So how is it that you want to experience life? Because, as Les Brown says, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. Let me repeat that. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. I want to leave you with one last thought. There's a reason that the book and a movie are so different, and why we always prefer books. Each and every one of us has experienced something different in life. Each and every one of us has a different imagination. And a book is simply a storyline. The storyline that allows us to maximize our imagination. But a movie, it simply dictates to us exactly how you should picture it. And that's why I don't want to advocate for you to go out there and experience simply for the purpose of neuroplasticity. That's just the science of it. There are certain scientific reasons for you to do it. There are certain non-scientific reasons for you to do it. There's also some proven reasons for you to do it. But there's also some beautiful, unproven reasons for you to go out there and experience a diverse life. I'll leave you with a few words. Words will design you, but experience will define you. So go and experience life. Thank you.